Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Stronger Roots. We have very special guest who has been on our show before, Alisa Divine. Welcome back to Stronger Roots.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so I am so interested. I just realized that you had published a guide for the holidays, and I've been trying to find someone that can talk about the holidays and how hard it is to navigate family dynamics that are very challenging. And so when I saw that you had written a guide, I was like, we've got to have her back on, talk about what you've done. So fill us in. What's been going on?
The holidays have always been so special to me. And I used to not understand when I would hear people say, oh, that they don't like the holidays. They're dreading, this time of the year. And I was like, why? Like, what on earth,
Yeah,
would happen for you to not like the holidays? I just didn't get it
yeah.
until I experienced parental alienation and I got it,
Mm,
because if your kids are not with you or they are with you, but they're not receptive to you or they don't, even want to have gifts or you don't know what to even get them because your relationship just does not have that connection anymore, it can feel like you dread it,
mhm,
and I experienced that. And I was like, like I want to tap back into the magic of the holiday season again. I want to love it. I want to feel like anything is possible. I want to, I want to feel the magic.
mhm,
And so I was like, I need to create something because on my TikTok channel, I just feel so much desperation from people who comment on my videos. And it's like, I don't know what to do. I was always a mom or a grandma, and now I don't know what to do with my life. I don't want to get up. I don't, and it was just like this heavy desperation, and I get it.
yeah.
I was a mom at a young age, of 19. I'm 48 now. I have always felt too that my life has revolved around being a mom.
Mhm,
And what do you do when you never expect that your kids are going to reject you?
mhm,
And so what do you do when that happens?
mhm,
And so my guide has six different chapters, and it's literally all the things that I've had to face, with the holidays. And I put it into a guide with, there's like the lessons in each chapter, a theme for each one. And then there's practical tools and skills. There's writing prompts, there's affirmations, there's somatic movement, because once you kind of dive into something, you want to be able to move that energy through your body so it doesn't stay stuck afterwards. And then there's some practical one-liners too of what do you say when someone asks you, how are your kids? What is everyone going to be home for the holidays? What are you getting them? And like you don't want to go into an explanation and really like not everyone deserves to
right.
know your whole story. So what do you say? Well, I have some one-liners here that you can memorize and literally close the subject down after that. You know,
Good. Wow, that sounds incredible. I mean, and I feel like lived experience, like you can read all of this stuff, but like what to do for parental alienation and the definition of this and the book stuff, but to go through it firsthand and to be struggling out in the world, not knowing how to navigate these waters, and you're throwing out a lifeline to someone to say, hey, I've been there. Here
yeah.
is a lifeline to kind of navigate through that. I think that's just so powerful when we use our pain for purpose and creating. What comes from destruction is artwork, right? It
Yeah.
flows through us. And I love how you're, using the somatic part of that too, because what we're finding out and a lot of people don't get is the fact that trauma gets stuck in our bodies. It's not just in our head, like our thoughts and everything, but it's actually stuck in our bones and our nervous system. And so really I'm in my former life, and I practice a little bit now, but I was a yoga teacher, had a yoga studio.
So cool.
So when I hear you talk about somatic stuff, that is a big passion of mine anyway, because I feel as if there's things that we go through, the trauma of something, and we don't get to release that or discharge that emotion or adrenaline that comes from what has happened. That it stays in the body. It does. And in order to get through that, we have to kind of shake it out or move or do something in addition to talking and writing and getting it out. So I'm really so excited about what you're doing. And I've been following you, of course. I found you on TikTok and everything. And when you talk about like women that are reaching out or grandmothers that are reaching out, just shocked by what they're experiencing and the emotions that they're experiencing. What kind of things are you see like, is there any tips that you can give, or is there a circumstance or something that you can talk about? What seems to be the most prevalent with TikTok that you're seeing right now?
I think it's just the fact that people don't know what to do, and they're
Blindsided by it. Is it like they're feeling blindsided by the alienation or something?
yeah, they don't know what to do. I mean, their identity is being stripped from them.
Mhm.
And, it's that desperation, like feeling like they're powerless.
Mhm.
And in fact, I just commented on one of my videos this morning where a grandma, left a comment. And I get just as much from moms. And I think it's important also to discern the difference between parental alienation and estrangement. So I'm just going to take a quick minute to do
Yes, please.
because that gets confused a lot. And I think if estrangement, people and parental alienation people can join forces and see, I actually think a lot of healing can come from that. So parental alienation is when um, a child is controlled and manipulated by another parent, it could be a step parent, to feel that their other parent is not safe and is not loving and does not have their best interest at hand. They are taught to distrust them. They are taught to have a distance with them. And estrangement is when, let's just say, an adult, because I really feel that we also have to define age and history with this as well, because there could be an adult in their 20s who experienced parental alienation as a child and never was able to heal or get out of that pattern. So
Mhm.
people could look at it from the outside and say, well, they're estranged. They're old enough to make their own decisions. Well, no, not really. Not if their brain and their nervous system is
Right.
stuck in that phase of childhood when the parental alienation happened. Okay, so estrangement is when this is a healthy situation of a child, but over 18, okay, who recognizes that there is a toxic pattern within the family system and they make a healthy choice to create a distance with their family of origin. Okay. The factors here that are important to recognize is that it's a choice. It's not being controlled or manipulated to do that action. And it is it is a healthy choice. So that's important. And, really anyone under 18, that's parental alienation. And it's parental alienation if it happened when they were under 18, but they're still older and still
Right.
stuck in that cycle. So I think that that's really important to discern between. And the comment that I left this morning, a grandma was saying that she just wanted to be a mom and a grandma, and, she was her whole life.
Mhm.
And, I tend to look at things like a little bit differently from a thought leader perspective because I have been in this for over 12 years now.
Wow.
And so, and actually what really catapulted my healing journey was incorporating somatic movement.
Mhm.
So, that really helped catapult me. And, I think that I can look at things differently from my perspective. I really believe that there's a lot of lessons that are taking place underneath, the surface of parental alienation. One, it's for the children, they're having their own lessons. And then for the parent that's being alienated, they're having their own lessons too. And I really believe in some circumstances that some parents are being called to create an identity for themselves, to build it, to have confidence in it, aside from being a mom and a grandma.
Mhm.
Because look at that mom that left me that comment on TikTok, was so distraught. Like that was her whole life
Right.
of being a mom and a grandma. And I was also a mom from a young age. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? And I could recognize, and I've said in other comments before, like think about this. Let's just like spin this another way for a minute here. Like, what if, like, were there any times in your life where when you had all of your family intact, that you thought it would be really nice if I just had like a weekend alone? Or if I could just like maybe do this hobby, or if I could travel here, or if I could maybe build a career,
Mhm.
and you didn't have the opportunity to do that. And not that, you know, um, like you still love your children, right? But we also have to have identities aside from being moms.
Yes. I think
So, right.
Yeah, I think that's just such an important thing, what you just said. I love the way that you distinguish between parental alienation and estrangement because oftentimes it gets kind of like, oh, it's in this category or it's in this category. And the two, they're different, but there's things that carry on from childhood that make it, like an estrangement, but not really, I mean, so thank you for doing that. That's a really important thing. But I really feel so strongly about the way that you like I said, I always keep saying this, like how you've taken your pain and turned it into purpose and you're helping other people. And it's almost like we have an obligation to reach behind us, grab the girl behind us, and say, okay, let me help you through this. And here's what you've got to focus on because we do forget as a mom, because when you're a mom, it's all consuming. It is, you're up and down with your child, you're taking, care of them 24/7, and you loved it. And you were such in that role and caring about your kids to the point where it was just like, this is everything. I don't have time to go and go travel and go to school and all that kind of stuff and then when something like this happens it sets you back so deep that you don't even know who the hell you are. You're just kind of like, I don't know where to start, where how to pick up the pieces. I don't know how to function. And that desperation, that despair that people often feel is so heavy that, suicides happen and just addictions grow and silence grows and people start to feel like they're an island all by themselves. And I just feel like that's such an important, like, destruction, and then comes construction. And you start to slowly get to build your life back slowly, piece by piece, and finding out, the magic behind who you are. Like, you were here for a purpose, not just to be a mom, but you have gifts too to give to the world. And so it's a very, I don't know, it's such a transformative spot to be in, I think. And if you can get through that, if you can get through the despair and the depression and the heaviness of having that happen to you, what's on the flip side is a discovery
Mm.
of who you can be, who you want to be, and who you choose to be. And I think that that's just amazing. That's a really transformative time for someone who's in this predicament that would never wish this upon anybody in the world, but since it's happened, like, such growth and transformation, can start to sprout. So,
I love the word that you use, discovery.
yes.
And I think that that's so important because it takes some of the heaviness off of, having to find yourself and having to do all these things to heal. And like, no, let's make it a discovery. Let's have fun with it.
Yeah.
And I think a combination approach is really the best way to do it. It's you have to find what fits for you. And that's, what I love about my guide is because it's not a one size fits all for everyone. Like take, the meat that you get out of here and throw away the bones, throw away the stuff that does not serve you,
Mhm.
and I I think that like and this is going to be weird, but like I think we need to start looking at this topic differently. And like I can't I mean, I went through domestic violence before parental alienation, right? So parental alienation for me happened after the divorce.
So
Okay.
post-separation abuse, kind of going through that. Is that
Right.
what, yeah,
Yeah, because he couldn't like get to me directly anymore
right.
legally, So but and I definitely went through so much um buildup of my self-worth and confidence to get to the point even, where I filed for divorce because I had left multiple times before that. So I really had to build up my confidence and self-worth in that area. But then when parental alienation happened, it was like I went on this journey of building up my confidence and self-worth in a way I could have never achieved
Hmm.
had I not been through that.
Yeah.
And that seems really messed up.
Hmm.
Hey, and in a way, I can almost like be appreciative of it.
Hmm.
And that sounds backwards, but like the amount of peace that I have, like today, I don't think I could have accomplished that in
Yeah.
another way,
Yeah.
and don't get me wrong, like there are still times where I have to really be conscious and work through things. There are still times when I cry. There are still times when I just get in my car and go park down a road and just scream.
Hmm.
Like I still feel that, but I'm able to come out of it much more quickly.
Yeah.
And I know, I know the process. I know where I'm at. I'm conscious, I'm aware of it, and it does not take over my life anymore. And
Yeah.
that's a gift. And I'm able to actually transfer that to other areas of my life too, with whatever I'm experiencing. So, I think it's just so important.
Yeah, I love how you say that because I was sitting in a support group, and one of the ladies was talking, and this had just happened, in my world, and I had kind of gone through this whole, pissed off at the world, angry, mad, despair, whatever. And one of the ladies was more of a seasoned veteran, right? She had been dealing with this for many, many years. And she said that it was a gift. It was a gift.
Mm.
And I looked at her and I was just thinking to myself, like, how can you possibly say that, like, having gone through this is a gift that I don't know what you're talking about, because having your child not speak to you or reject you or whatever does not feel like a gift. Fast forward time and healing, and I see now what the gifts are. And it's and it's really truly remarkable when you get to that spot, because you never think in your wildest dreams that that can lead you to yourself, and kind of just revealing, what is important right now, and how do I get through something that was just sucking the life out of me, and just that I couldn't fix, no matter, feeling like you're just in a briar bush where you're every time I turn around, I just got like stuck more. I couldn't make it right. It wasn't good enough. It wasn't, this happened and then this happened and this happened. And the more I tried, the worse it got, right? And when you let go and you say, I've got to just work on getting myself healthy again. I've got to work on getting me back to me, whoever that is. And so fast forward now, I see what you're talking about. I see what that woman was talking about. And I see that there is gems underneath the rubble. I see that there is something to be discovered amongst all of that. So I think it's an important kind of conversation to have, but knowing, someone going through this for the first time, day, 10 or year one, doesn't feel that way. It's going to feel like very raw and like, what the hell are they talking about? How could this ever be this way? And it's just amazing how you can kind of sit with that feeling, and it lessens. It doesn't take you down as hard as what it once did. And I'm glad to hear that you've come such a long way, that you still have those feelings, right?
Yeah,
But they don't control your everyday like it
exactly.
once did. And that's empowering too, to yourself, like you can survive the unsurvivable, to grieve someone who's walking this earth, and not to be a part of their everyday. That's so hard. That's, you know, such a hard process to walk through. I want to ask you, when you were writing this guide, what kind of things did you discover about yourself? I mean,
Mm,
was there any kind of aha moments that you were just like, wow, like,
yeah. Yeah. Actually, when I started incorporating the spiritual chapter of this, and I want to discern, this, it's, not about religion or any kind of religious affiliation. It's about looking at it from kind of like a worldly perspective, and from an energetic perspective, because everything is energy,
mhm,
really. And the power of, like, we have the ability to still love our children and send them love,
mhm,
even if we're not in the same vicinity.
yes.
And so, um, like, I don't, like, I've known that and I have used that, but when I started working on the guide, I really started to embody that more and tap into that more, And so I feel like me creating this guide was also, even deeper embodiment of my journey and my healing. And, like, I think too, like, this can also be a gift for our children. And I know, like, there were many times, many years where this was the most horrible thing, and I couldn't imagine any gifts coming out of it. But, I really believe that our children did choose us, for a reason. And
Hmm.
so, with that being said, they also chose the other parent for a reason.
Yeah.
And what was that? What lessons were they trying to achieve?
Mhm.
And if we can use that as a piece of like, this is their journey too. It's not only our journey, but we are responsible for our part of our journey. But
Mhm.
if we can look at it and like, what are they trying to learn? What are they getting? What lessons are they getting? And how can I best support them like through it?
Wow.
It's not like being angry with them. It's not being sad.
Yeah.
It's that doesn't serve them.
Hmm.
What serves them is us building ourselves to be the lighthouse,
Yeah.
to be the shining light so they have a safe place to come home to when they are ready, for that break, when they're ready for that respite. And, like a lighthouse, and I have this in my guide, a lighthouse does not swim out to the boats to get them and reel them back in. A lighthouse doesn't make the boats come to them.
Yeah.
The lighthouse is strong and lit up and in their purpose. And that's how the boats make their way back.
Oh, that gives me cold chills. Wow. That's powerful. I um I happen to be listening to a podcast with Jay Shetty and Madonna. And if you grew up back in the 80s and loved Madonna, she was like my idol back then. But she had gone through a very hard divorce, and she had her son kind of estranged from her, alienated from her. And one of the things that she said is like, I was expected to go on with my life. And here I had to go out and sing to all kinds of people. And meanwhile, backstage, I was sobbing and crying and laying on the floor, could not function. And she said, and over time, I remembered because her practice is Kabbalah, and she was talking, if I would have known 10 years down the road that my son would eventually come back home and he would be my best friend, one of my best friends. But I didn't know that at the time.
Mhm.
And she said, how her struggle was. And then the Kabbalah practice of knowing that like no one can sever that tie to
Yeah.
your child, right? So that's like you birth a child in your body, or you gave this child so much love. I don't know, your particular circumstances, but I know that like I gave birth to my children, and nothing, no one, no entity, nothing can ever sever that cord. And that right there in itself, in this lifetime or the next, is always going to be there. It's for eternity. There's nothing you can take away, like, or mess with.
Yeah.
And that, hearing that interview was very life-changing, I think, for me to hear this rich, famous, you think she's got it all kind of thing, and but struggled in
Yeah.
that way, in that very way. And also realizing, that her practice was really all about knowing that eternally, that there
Mhm.
was, if your child talks to you in 5 years, if they talk to you in 10 years, if they don't ever come back home, there is still that underlying love, unconditional love that never goes away. And I don't know, I felt that to be so healing, because sometimes in this lifetime you can't fix it, right? There's circumstances beyond your power. and there's interferences, or there's this that happens, or there's messy dynamics, or whatever it is, whatever the case might be. And a lot of times you can't break through to that. And knowing that, you know what, my love is always, my door is always open. I love you unconditionally. There's nothing that will ever take away that love. There's nothing that ever takes away that love. And you have growth to do, and as well as I have growth to do. And I
And
think that's just a when you can get to that point, right? But starting out in this journey, a newbie into this world, and you hear something like this, it's going to jar you. It's going to jar you because you think, what in the world are these women talking about? Like, how did you ever come to this conclusion? And it is, I think you can tell that there's been so much healing that you've done, and that I'm working through too as well, that we've come to these spaces of being calm about it, to not trying to fight and like, oh yeah, they're a jerk for doing this, and there's, this and this and this, but it's this calmness. There's this inner stability that you have about it, that your truth, you're rooted in your truth, you're rooted in your love for your child, and that no one can take that away, no matter
yeah,
what's been done. So,
that that's beautiful. And I love the example of Madonna.
mhm,
I want to say, like, yeah, this what I've said so far could be triggering to people for
yeah,
sure. And I think that I would be remiss if I did not speak to how we have to deal with this in the physical reality,
mhm,
and people's feelings are valid, it is a process. It is a process, and you have to feel your feelings. You are allowed to cry in the shower. You're allowed to be angry and punch your pillows or scream in your car. Like, I like the message that I responded to on one of my videos this morning. I was like, I wish I could tell you how many times I've screamed in my car and just broke down in tears afterwards
yeah,
because I've had so much emotion build up, or I would be frustrated, you know. W without knowing what to do, or n not knowing how to think of it,
mhm,
So, my perspective is different after, having all of these experiences over 12 years, and not once, but twice. So it was really the second time that it happened that I was like, okay, I need to like heal this
mhm,
good. You know what I mean? So the majority of the years I've been experiencing parental alienation has not been as evolved as I'm, saying today. So people's sadness, anger, frustration, guilt, shame, all of that, it is valid. And and you can work through it. And I think it's really important to see it in the physical reality, of what's happening right now, but then to also have it like in the spiritual reality where that the bond between you and your child cannot be severed, where
mhm,
you know that they will come back. And you know that even if they don't in the foreseeable future, you are going to be okay.
mhm,
You know what I mean? And so it's combining like the real-time physical realities and emotions, and combining like the hope, the faith, the belief, the building up of your self-worth and your confidence so that you can handle whatever things come.
yeah.
And that's the key.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think you're spot on when you say that some of the content can be very triggering to someone, because they're navigating these waters, and this is like, we're brought up as being protectors and mama bears. Like, nobody messes with our kids. That's
Yeah.
just stated the fact. And when that when something like that does happen, we go to full alert. Our nervous systems are on heightened alert. Everything, when we know something has happened to this relationship, we're going to do everything in our power to like bring it back. We're constantly trying to do that. And when that fails, there's such a despair that grows in that. And it's overwhelming to feel those emotions. And so speaking to that person today as we're talking, that despair that hangs with you to where everything you hear a song, you're driving down the road, you're thinking about old times, you're, picturing your child, whatever it is, those moments are so critical to feel that, to feel that sadness, to let it wash over you, to, check into therapy, to if you're able to get a good therapist to do EMDR, to do somatic healing, to really focus on journaling, writing letters to your children to say, I miss you and put it in a shoebox, or I've had also what's really good is an email set up for my children, and to write, hey, I really miss you today. This is what's going on. Send the
Right.
email to an email address that one day maybe they'll get it, and I think that's just a great way to pour some of that emotion out. And a lot of it is just, for me, it was isolating, and um, spend time just being with myself and learning about myself, but also allowing myself to know that there's other people that have good dynamics with their children, and I didn't. And to feel that rejection and to feel that hurt and sit with it and not run from it, but allow myself to say, no matter how bad I feel right now, I know that I still mean something to someone. I can still use what love I have in me to be able to, um, help somebody else out right now that might need me, or to be of service to someone, and working through some of those emotions through service for donation, like helping and donating to, the food bank, or helping serve food for someone, and getting yourself out of your suffering for just a minute, and realizing that you too have gifts and needs that you can fulfill to someone else, and use your nurturing for someone else who needs it too, but it's a process. I don't know what got me on that tangent, but I just think that there's so much to this.
Mm.
And a lot of times we talk about the wins or the final product, right? The I got through it and the rainbow's here and I'm on the good side of things, but you have to acknowledge of where you've been in order to where you got to, and that process. And I think you do a great job on your TikTok channel of explaining that, and your book too, will be such a great resource for people to acknowledge the pain and to
Yeah.
move through it. So I'm so glad that you did that. And it's kind of like when you're looking for stuff, out in the world, it's never there, but this is a great guy that is there, that's able to be accessed. And I think we're seeing more of those types of things. Like we're seeing people write, books that have been through the
Mhm.
trenches and want to share their pain and help another person. I think that's just so healing in itself. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And you actually touched on two chapters in my guide, which is handling holiday triggers and then creating connection and community.
Mhm.
So, you know, it is such a process. And when we can look at, the pieces and kind of pick everything apart, you know, um, that's where we can really, you know, feel better. And I think it's so important to put a focus on feeling better.
Yeah.
Like my goal is to help people feel better. You
Hmm.
know, I may not be able to make your kids come back, and heal that for you, but I can help you to feel better
Yeah.
in the process. I can help you to be that lighthouse so that when they do come back, they're coming back to a parent who's fulfilled, who's whole, who's happy, not someone who's still in bed and
Right.
suffering.
Right.
Like look at the difference of that, like what that would feel like for the child coming back. Because here's the thing too, and we often I don't think there's very much to speak on this, but I really believe the children who are alienated, like our children,
Hmm.
I don't think that they hate us. I don't think that they don't want to be around us. I think that they got caught in the trap.
Yeah.
They got caught in the manipulation. They got caught in the control. They got caught in trying to protect the other parent because they saw them unhinged.
Hmm.
There's so many things here. And I know that it looks like they don't want to see me. They don't want to talk to me. They don't answer my texts. Like, I know. And this is the part where I'm talking about we have to be able to discern between the physical reality of what things look like
Hmm.
and feel like, but then also like understand that there's a whole another spiritual level to this. And we have to dig deep in that because it looks like they're not talking to us. It looks like they won't accept the Christmas gifts. It looks like they don't show up to the family gatherings.
Yeah.
Do you like think that that feels good to them?
No, I don't. I think that they're suffering too in their own
Yeah.
way. I mean, there's a
Yeah.
hard exterior, right? Like, I'm not talking to this person, or I'm not talking to my dad because whatever, I'm not talking to my mom. And there's this hard exterior. But anger, if you boil it down, is just sadness, right?
Right.
And so
And they're,
that's,
and
yeah.
they're disconnected from their emotions.
Hmm.
It's like they have these big walls up, like these boundaries.
Yeah.
Well, they learned that somewhere. They learned, that their emotions are not safe. They're not, and so, you know, I know how hard all of this is, and it's not a quick fix, unfortunately. But I just feel really called to show people what's possible. Like when we can step back for a moment and, yes, feel your feelings, be sad, angry, frustrated, all the things,
Mhm.
you know. But then after that, make a conscious decision to try and look at one piece of this a little bit differently and see if you can find something that resonates with you. See if you can find something that feels a little bit lighter that you can lean into. And maybe it's that they're really those kids are really struggling, even if they act like they're not.
Mhm.
It's not normal for kids to create a distance with a parent,
Right.
with someone who provides resources and love and care to them. That's not normal.
Mhm.
So we need to look at things a little bit differently and like know that it's going to be a process. It's a journey. It's all the things. And I wish that I could tell you it's easy and it can change overnight.
Mhm.
And, we can have pieces of it, that can be quick.
Right.
But this really is, I feel like a soul's journey.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sitting here and I'm just like, this is so helpful to hear for for so many people that are in the same, same rough waters. I mean, it seems like there's just an epidemic of this.
Mhm.
And reading about it, sitting in groups with people, hearing, story after story after story of like, I can't understand why my child's done this, or whatever. And, you know, um, and to never, to feel that despair and everything, but also to realize that there is healing on the other side of it. It's just it's a really interesting journey to kind of walk through. And I love what you're doing. And as we're wrapping up our time, because I don't want to keep you, too long, but is how do people find you? What's a good spot for people to kind of connect with you on
Yeah.
social media and stuff?
So I have all of my parental alienation on TikTok.
Okay.
I don't have it on Instagram. I don't have it on Facebook. Just because I love TikTok for the reason I feel like people can have real conversations there. And this is a very unique conversation, right? It's not always acceptable in mainstream social media. And so I have all of my content there. There's a link in my TikTok bio where you can get my guide. You can book a call with me. Um, you can co-author a book with me if you want. Um, and yeah, and watch my videos. Like I just really hope that I can help people in little nuggets, help to find some healing, to be valid in your emotions and feelings and know that you're not alone and know that you can tap into some hope, some different ways of thinking that can just help you feel better. Like at the end of the day, that's what I want people to do is to just feel a little bit better while going through parental alienation.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you do. I think the message that I've been watching you on TikTok, and I think that the messages that you give out to people are very positive and inspiring. And I've always felt that way when I see your content. I'm just like, oh, there's a person that has done the work, that is out there helping. Like I said, we have an obligation to people who have gone through some traumatic stuff to reach behind and help the next person. And you're doing a fabulous job of doing that and putting yourself out there, your story, and writing a guide to help others. I mean, can you imagine your life 12 years ago that you'd ever be going through this, and look at how this journey has unfolded for you. And I just think that that's just so inspiring, and I appreciate you coming on our show to talk about this. And we always want our guests to come back anytime they have anything new to share and anything that they want to talk about. Is there anything that you'd like to say, closing this out? Is there any words of wisdom, anything that you want to, share to the community as we're wrapping up our conversation?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me again. I love our conversations. And I think, as we're entering and in the midst, of the holiday season, things can feel very overwhelming and comparison, is at an all-time high, seeing families in matching pajamas and the perfect photos and feeling like part of your heart is ripped out of your body,
Right.
and I just want people to know that this is temporary, okay? That there is so much more that's happening that you can't see. And to tap into your own magic this holiday season, let go of feeling like you need to have that perfect family photo, matching pajamas, everyone seated at your table for Thanksgiving. Like, be okay with things looking a little bit differently. Be okay with not having to explain everything. Be okay with not, like having that, just having that like perfection, I
Mhm.
think, is what really traps people into, the triggers of the holiday season. Create something new.
Yeah.
Have a new tradition. If your kids don't come over and bake Christmas cookies with you this year, make do something new. Have girlfriends over, have a wine and movie night, do something that there are people who love you.
Yeah.
There, and we're so focused on the ones who don't, and absolutely there's a time and a place for that, to feel all of it and
Mhm.
do that, but then get back up and find something that you can find joy in, find people, other connections, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because we need to start looking at things differently and defining our traditions and rituals and what, holiday and love and all of that mean to us. We're being called to redefine.
Yeah, no, I think that's huge. That's so important to hear that because there is that hallmark card that or experience that from a young age, you've kind of been set up for, it's going to be snowing, everybody's going to be wearing matching pajamas, we're going to be by the fire and we're going to be cooking, whatever, blah 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 blah. And really what it is, it's unrealistic, right? It's a setup. And what you have to do is truly tap into what makes you feel good. Who are the people that make you feel good? What is it that you can do to soothe that part of you that wants to give or wants to like bake cookies? Or can you invite girlfriends over? Can you have your family? Can you cook with your mother, your aunt, your grandmother? Can you invite, you know, um, a friend? Can you go to a nursing home? Can you serve food at food bank or make a meal for someone that you don't even know, a stranger, whatever, give it to them, whatever it is to get that need of wanting to create something magical. And I think that's what it is. That's kind of the true spirit too. Instead of this, what it looks like from the outside, like, oh my God, they're so perfect. They all sitting around the fire and everybody's happy. And I think a lot of times if you were to ask those people who have that perfect rendition of Christmas, are they happy?
Yeah.
People might say no. You know what I mean? Like the kids were just fighting 10 minutes ago. I wasn't talking to my husband, blah, blah, blah. We were sitting by the fire. I didn't even know that this was going to happen. I mean, sometimes we have our own expectations of what we think is happening or that, whatever. And it's not always like that. It's not always the truth of the matter. So being gentle with yourself, taking care of yourself, saying no when you need to say no, saying I need a break when I need a break, um and also letting letting yourself have space to be upset and sad instead of shoving it all down and saying no, I'm fine, I'm everything's great, everything's great. There is room for being able to create magic and new traditions while also being sad. You can hold both of those things, and a lot of people want one or the other, and I think it's you know, you can your heart is big enough to hold both emotions. So,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I have so many ideas and resources in my guide. So I want to gift your
yes.
listeners $10 off.
Oh,
So
great.
yeah, I will give you that code and you can put it in the notes and
Wonderful.
give them
Wonderful.
a handle. So
Yeah. Well, I am so glad. I love talking to you. I think you're just you radiate positivity and light. And thank you for being a lighthouse for our community, for our listeners, and sharing your wisdom, your hard-earned wisdom with our community. And I wish you good luck on the release. And so the book is, or the guide is out now. Is that
Yes, it's
okay? So we
available.
can get that.
Yes. Yeah.
Perfect. So
Yeah.
we'll put the code in our show notes and when we put it out there, and our website is in progress. It's we've got some feedback on our website right now and it's getting ready to launch. So all of your stuff will be in there as well. And it was a pleasure, talking to you today as always. And I hope that you have a wonderful holiday season.
Thank you, Danielle. I appreciate you so much. And I love what you're doing too, bringing voices and important conversations to the light here. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. And to our listeners today, take care of yourself and ask for help if you need it. Reach out to your community, 1-800 numbers, Stronger Roots. We're always here to help and assist. So take care of yourself, and we'll talk to you soon.